Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Let the record reflect that a quorum is present for the purpose of conducting business. My name is Alec Farmer. I'm the chairman of the Arkansas State Highway Commission. I'd like to welcome everyone to the August 2nd meeting. We've got a few housekeeping items to begin with, so let me remind everyone about when you're speaking to turn your microphone on and speak directly in the microphone so everyone watching through streaming can hear what you have to say. Also, I'd like to entertain a motion to continue the usage of electronic signatures for the signing of the minute orders.
So move.
Got a motion?
Second.
Second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, we will continue to do that. Let's see. As always, the first order of business is the approval of the minutes from the last meeting. I think everybody's had a chance to look over them from the June 21st meeting, so if I could get a motion for the approval of the minutes.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Next up is the reading of the minute orders. So, commissioners, again, because we're doing electronic signatures, if you have a question, just feel free to jump in, and we'll try to get them answered if you have a question or a comment. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dave Parker, Public Information Officer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Minute Order 1 simply calls for the approval of the Purchasing Committee awards. Minute Order 2, authorization to pay membership dues to the Institute of Internal Auditors for state fiscal year 2024. Minute Order 3, authorization to pay for annual membership dues to AASHTO, the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials, Technical Service Programs for state fiscal year 2024. Minute Order 4 calls for the approval to procure and enter an agreement with a qualified consultant to perform an energy audit of facilities owned by the department.
Excuse me just a second. On that energy audit, I know there's a lot of people doing this kind of thing today, and are they going to do an audit on Bobby Hopper Tunnel?
No, this audit was just for our facilities across the state. I guess we could add that to it if we wanted to. I don't know what that would look like, or what do you mean?
Well,
by
I'd been contacted a couple of times by people that do that kind of stuff. You know how we get those calls. But anyway, he seemed to think, and I've gotten calls from people older people that have some kind of eye issue, and they say that type of lighting that we have in there is really difficult for them to see going through it. I don't know what it is. I got one guy in particular, he's an architect, and he said, you all need to update those lights. He said, it's just really, and I haven't vetted any of this. I'm just saying this is just hearsay stuff, you know.
Well, that's what this audit is about, is to look into those things and see what we need to do to make it better. And it's over on the side of efficiency.
Yeah.
But we can definitely see if that's something we can add to this audit. That makes a lot of sense, that we would look at the energy, how much energy we're expending, and the lights. A lot of it will have to do with the lighting that we have in the different facilities.
Well, let me be clear. I don't have any problem with that light, and I can drive through it fine at 70. So, but then somebody else had contacted me a couple of years ago about doing an audit on that they thought there's a lot more efficient way of doing it. And, you know, we get calls like that all the time, so I
Well,
didn't go any further.
If this company who's under a state contract, this company has already gone through all the state
Sure.
purchasing. And so if they can't do this kind of audit on the tunnel, we can look further into what
Yeah,
it would
I'm
take.
not suggesting you change anything at all. I'm just saying, I'd be surprised if they can't do an audit on that.
Yeah, I would.
And you may look at it and say, we don't want to even mess with it. I'm just bringing it up because it's been brought up to me 2 or 3 times.
No, that's good to know. And
Thank you.
thank you.
Continuing on, minute order 5 gives approval to partner with DriveWise to provide in-cab notifications of traffic and conditions to commercial drivers.
I had a question about this one. So this seems like amazing technology. I'm excited about this. What is our relationship going to be with them? Is it a financial contract, or are we just becoming a partner and providing information? Can you speak to that a little bit more?
Sure, it will be. It is kind of a hybrid. We're partnering with them because they can provide this service and take our information and push it out to the commercial motor vehicles. But there will be a contract because there's a cost involved with it. So if that answers your question, there will be a contract, but it is more or less a partnership because they have the capability of doing what we can't do, but we have a lot of information they don't have access to, so it goes kind of hand in hand.
Can you also talk a little bit about what some of the things are that they plan to do, or anyone else? Just, I think that'd be good just to hear a little bit more about it for everybody.
I can give you a very high-level idea of what will happen, but I've got Chief Holmes here today, and he can get more into the weeds. He knows all about it. But what they do is we inform them of different issues on the roads, and they create what's called a geofence. And that geofence, when a commercial motor vehicle or a CMV drives into that area, they get a notification. So it's anything to do with the roads. If it is a work zone, a crash that has occurred, a detour that's there. One of the ones that really sold me when we were getting the presentation on what all it can do is we get a lot of complaints where Google or the GPS system that they're using is taking trucks like through small communities and places where they may have to drive a little bit further, but there's a lot better route for these CMVs. We can create those geofences and alert those drivers, even though this is a way to get to where you're going. It may be a shorter distance. This is better because you won't have some 90-degree turns, you won't be going through a small town, there won't be any roundabouts, whatever we want to say. So I think it's a backdoor way almost of kind of manipulating where these CMVs drive, giving them a better option than maybe what their GPS is giving them.
And would we integrate that into iDrive, or is it a standalone app, or would
It's-
there be some way to
It's both.
marry the two?
I think they are going to use our information in iDrive for a lot of it, and then we can provide additional, like I'm saying, a geofence around a certain area. We'd rather a truck go this way rather than the other way. You know, it'll be both, right? Chief Holmes, can you speak a little more?
Yes, ma'am. It'll integrate with. They'll take the data from my iDrive and it'll integrate to dynamic messaging for dynamic situations.
Okay.
Thank you so
I
much.
just want to follow up on that. So we're taking information from iDrive and putting it over in this system. Is there any real-time information that's coming from this system back to iDrive?
No, I'm not sure about that, but like they will be able to set up dynamic geofences.
That's what you're
for-
talking about,
right.
the benefit for us.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, the next few minute orders deal with land and changes. Minute order 6 Takes us to District 3, Miller County, simply declares a tract of land as surplus. This is in the Texarkana area. Minute Order 7, Sebastian County, requesting a change on a piece of land to move it from capital asset to a right-of-way near Highways 10 and 96 in the Greenwood area. Minute Order 8, also in Sebastian County, we're moving to declare the property known as the Fort Smith Van Buren Road to change it to surplus property. Minute Order 9, Washington County, calls for declaring a tract of land as surplus property. Minute Order 10, Benton County declares a piece of land as surplus. This is near the Bella Vista Bypass and Highway 72. Minute Order 11, District 10, Greene County, releasing 3 tracts of land to the county. Minute Order 12, Pulaski County. This minute order gives authorization to acquire the services of an architectural and engineering firm for the design and construction for the brick facade removal and treatment of the surface in our central office building.
And on that, Director, that is not to look better, it's because we're having structural issues with that brick, correct?
That's correct. Of course, this building was built in 1966, and the brick on the outside is more for decorative purposes than anything. And it's getting near the end of its useful life, and so out of the abundance of caution and based on a report we got from our architect that looked at our facilities, we've decided that it's best just to go ahead and remove that brick, remove that risk of it starting to fail and fall off, and then putting some kind of temporary surface treatment that makes the best sense. We'll come back with that. We're going to have to really vet that out because we want to keep that cost down, but we also have to think about energy efficiencies and things like that. So it's not going to look as, this is a beautiful mid-century modern facility, I think. Although some people might disagree, but it's going to look a little more institutional, more like an institution for a little bit anyway, until we can do something more.
I think I speak for everybody in this building saying we don't mind as long as those bricks don't come down. So we don't care what it looks like. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I've got a question on, back on number 11, did you say that those tracts were turned back to the county? Is that the way I understood you?
Minute Order 11.
Uh-huh. That they went back to the county?
Yes.
Yes.
No, Minute Order 11 has to do with Greene County.
Yes.
The numbering is a little off from,
Well, hold it. Mine says number 11, District 9, Benton County.
There was a minute order, late change. Minute Order 10 originally was taken out of order. So your order is going to be one off, Vice Chairman.
Okay, so that didn't pertain to that one.
Correct.
Okay.
You are
That's
correct.
good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Minute Order 13, approval to proceed with required work to replace the roof at the District 10 Central Shop in Paragould, also built in 1966. Minute Order 14, Sebastian County. This minute order calls for the naming of a bridge on Highway 96 in the city of Lavaca as Corporal Terry Wayne Johnson Memorial Bridge. And
that one came from the Lavaca Police Department, it looks like.
yes, he
Chief of
actually
the Chief
served.
of Police.
Yes, he served 16 years with the Sebastian County Sheriff's Office, but helped often with the city police.
That's great. Thank you.
And finally, Minute Order 15. This minute order gives the authorization to update the current city or county welcome sign guidelines to include gateway monuments and transportation art. And that concludes the minute orders, sir.
All right, thank you, Dave. Now I'd like to ask your Chief Financial Officer, Patrick Patton, to come forward and present us with the State Highway Financial Report. And I just wanted to underscore that we're going to be covering not only just revenues, but the expenditures going forward. So, thank you, Patrick.
Thank you. Good morning. As the chairman said, we've got a new slide this time, and we will continue to build on it and tweak it as we need to. This one is taking the state fiscal year of 2023, which ended June 30th, breaks it out on the expense side with our maintenance, our operations, administration, budget, construction, and obviously total. The great news is we came in $5 million plus under budget, or about 3.1%. To give you some of the highlights of what these areas are, maintenance expense, for example, is made up of road and machinery equipment. About $4.5 million of that we were under budget there because machinery did not come in, so we would have been right at budget. Maintenance is also obviously districts, statewide divisions are part of the maintenance area. Operations, they were flat for the year compared to budget. That has state police, SIR, planning divisions. The administration area was also flat. It's made up of the director's budget, fiscal services, retirement, HR, and then budgeted construction was also flat, which includes the pre-construction budgets, program management, and surveys. So this is where we landed for the year. We will have the same type report going forward in each of our coming commission meetings. It will, however, be broken out at this time. We're talking about it being broken out like our budget is. The director's budget, the pre-con, operations budget, admin budget, and it'll be shown in those categories as we go through as we have other commission meetings. And then we'll have this slide at the end of the year. So we'll have this one at the end of the year and a slightly different one for the other months.
Patrick, can you speak to the discrepancy in the maintenance? I think Lori had told me that was due to not being able to receive equipment that we had ordered.
There was about $4.5 million in equipment that I understand that we did not get, and so that will hit this year's budget. And the thing with the road and machinery budget is we have the ability to carry some of that over because a lot of the times when you order equipment, say we order it now, it may still be 18 months before we get it. So this is the one budget that we do carry things over. So we're, depending on when we receive it, it may hit this next year or after.
Good, thank you.
So moving on to our normal slides. I'll try to keep you awake. It's been pretty flat. This is our June to June actual revenues. We're down 3.9 million in motor fuel. Registrations came in pretty flat. The permits and penalties flat. Natural gas continues to be strong year over year. However, I'll mention something in the next slide about that. But overall, 11.3 million above last year at this same time. One thing to mention about this slide too, I'll go ahead and mention is, and I'll mention it again at the end, is the sales tax ended June 30 for the 4-lane construction program. It is now Amendment 101, which will be coming into our operating fund, and so you will see an additional column as we go forward with our future commission presentations with Amendment 101 comparisons. So next we've got the actual versus budgeted. As you see here, we were down a little bit 4.8 million in motor fuel, 2.8 above in registrations. Once again, natural gas severance is continuing to be strong through the year, for a total of 27.3 million or 5.9% above budget. To back up to the natural gas, I know y'all have gotten tired of hearing me say, let's be cautious of how much we take for granted, I guess, if anything. The good volume of taxes coming in, it has started falling off. Last July, we got $8 million in natural gas severance. This July, we got 400,000. So there is a big difference, and so we'll continue to track that. And management's been very cautious on let's not commit all that money, knowing that we could have a downturn. So I'll continue to update y'all on that as it goes, but it is starting to trend down. Moving on to Act 416, the June versus June numbers, flat. It's 2.3 million or 2.4% above this time last year. Continues to just stay steady. Same thing with the budget.
Sorry, Patrick, could you go back to that
Yes,
slide?
sir.
One thing kind of struck me as odd is the electric hybrid fees. I mean, if we're moving toward more electric cars, why is it going the other way on our budgeted versus our actual?
That's a hot topic right now. We're getting a lot of questions about that. I saw an article the other day from a nationwide standpoint that they're looking at about 50% of the vehicles out there being electric, hybrid, or some other alternative fuel
Right.
by 2050. So we've still got a good 30 years before that happens. As y'all have heard in other presentations in the last year and a half about our charging stations and the initiative to put those out. It's very non-scientific. Take the previous 12 months and kind of base it off of that with no growth.
Right.
Is kind of how we go at it.
Like it's a very insignificant portion of our revenues today, but we obviously want to keep an eye on that going forward.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Bureau of Legislative Research asked me about that last week. Matter of fact, our representative, Billy Parrish, and was asking, how is that going to work? And the intent with Act 416 was as more and more electric, hybrid, or alternative fuel vehicles come on and the gas taxes go down, we're kind of balancing that out.
And I don't mean to put you on the spot here. Maybe somebody else answer the question. Do our registration fees for hybrids and electrics, does that cover or try to replace just the state fuel tax, or is that intended to replace the state and federal fuel tax?
State and federal.
Okay.
The calculations includes the federal tax that gasoline-powered vehicles pay.
Okay, thanks.
Good questions, thanks. The next one is Act 416 budgeted versus actual. Once again, this one's even more flat. As I mentioned, pretty much non-scientific. Take the previous year until we start seeing upticks. If we start seeing a big change in the registration fees like we were just talking about, then we'll put maybe a factor of growth to it. And as you can see, we did receive our casino tax, $35 million. About 24 million of it was out of the casino fund, and so out of the governor's fund there was about half and half. It's about 17 million out of the governor's fund and 17 out of the casino fund. Motor fuel consumption, flat also for gas, 3.4 million gallons above. Diesel was strong this month over last year at the same time, 11.5 million gallons or 14.7 above this time last year. The rolling 12-month comparison for fuel, which takes, the previous 12 months and then the previous before that, so it's a 24-month rolling, is very flat, 0.66% difference between this current 12 months and the previous 12 months, or 14.8 million gallons. This slide that y'all have gotten used to seeing for the last 11 years, this one and the next one will be gone the next time we meet, because like I said, the bonds have been paid off for this half-cent sales tax. It will roll into our operating fund and will be reported in the previous slides. But I will let you know for this year, we're 33.5 million above DFNA's projections. And we did get, there is a little rollover. The 4-lane program did get about 12 million of tax this month, but that was related to June sales. And then the other 11 million, for a total of 23 million, the other 11 million came into our operating fund. So they split that out. We may have a little bit of trickling here and there, but the majority of it, lion's share of it, will be in, the operating budget. And once again, we came in, for July, 22.4, so June was 24 million. So it's still strong. The last slide for the half-cent sales tax, I think I mentioned last month or last meeting, I was hopeful that if things stayed strong, we would pass the $2 billion in actual receipts for the half-cent sales tax. And I'm happy to report that we did by 13 million. Over the inception of the program, we were 72 million above what DFNA projected. So it's obviously a very good program. Does anybody have any questions?
Pat, what interest are we getting on our money now? I mean, it seems like in the last year, interest rates have tripled, and you can get pretty good.
It's about 6%, I think, and that's a good segue. Is we are actually, it's on the director's desk right now for us to request our $20 million of security reserve fund, which is the first. There's a formula, but it's within the first 20 million of the interest on the Treasury. That was fully funded this month, which I think is the first time in my short career here that's happened the first month of the year. We've also fully funded the $525,000 of intermodal, and so that will be distributed soon. And about half of the RETA grants was funded. So that's a good timely question. Interest is very strong at this time. So once we get the RETA grants, next $200,000-300,000 funded there, the rest of the interest will come to us the rest of the year, as in RDOT's operating.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Patrick. Appreciate it. Okay. For the remainder of the meeting, I guess we turn things over to the director. So the meeting is now yours.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, so next we have Jared Wiley, our Chief Engineer of Pre-Construction, to give you an update on federal highway and transit issues.
Thank you, Director. We want to take a few minutes today to update you about the $3.5 billion federal highway funding discrepancy that we reported to you in April at the April meeting. This $3.5 billion discrepancy was discovered in 2018. There's a difference in the federal highways records and USDOT's system of record. Last month, we received some really good news from Federal Highway Administration. They issued a memo to us telling us that the discrepancy has been reduced by 70%. So it's now $1 billion instead of $3.5 billion. So really good news there. The ongoing audit revealed that in fiscal year 2005, 18 years ago now, a $2.5 billion accounting operation was incorrectly coded in the USDOT system. and it erroneously, in fact, impacted the state's contract authority back in that time. So it's been corrected now. July 10th, the money was restored, and now the states have access to that additional $2.5 billion. So how does this impact Arkansas? Our share, again, of this pre-IIJA funding, the current federal legislation that was impacted, is $67.5 million. As of April, we have been given access to 5% of this funding, but today, again, we've got access to 70% of this, or $47 million. So good news for us, and as we always do, we use every federal highway dollar we receive, and same will be true this year. We're going to make that happen. So next steps, again, we're going to continue the coordination with Federal Highways and AASHTO, keep an eye on the situation. They tell us they should be complete with their review at the end of the year for the remaining $1 billion. All right, shifting gears now, we want to update you about and bring some other good news to you regarding our 2023 Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity, or RAISE grant application that we submitted in February. On June 28th, USDOT announced that a total of $2.2 billion was awarded across the nation to 162 projects. I'm pleased to report that Arkansas was the recipient of 2 awards under this cycle. The city of Russellville received a RAISE grant for nearly $24 million that will allow them to create 13 miles of new bicycle trails and walking paths in their city. And for the department, our grant application was successful. We received $25 million for our Highway 5 widening project in Bryant. This project runs from Reynolds Road, Highway 183, up to the Pulaski County line, about 3 miles. It will enable us to widen that from a 2-lane to a 5-lane facility, and it will close the gap. That's the remaining project on that 11-mile stretch of Highway 5 that acts as an outlet when incidents occur on Interstate 30. It's a relief valve for travelers there. So good news there. And then wanted to mention also, since your last meeting, USDOT announced that the 2023 Multimodal Project Discretionary Grant, or we call it MPDG grants, were announced. Over $5.5 billion is available this fiscal year under that program. As a reminder, MPDG is the compilation of 3 different separate grant programs at USDOT. Mega grants are designed to support large, complex projects that generate regional or national benefits. Infrastructure for Rebuilding America, or INFRA grants, this grant program rolled over from the last legislation, support the movement of goods and people across the nation. And then rural surface transportation grants are designed to expand infrastructure in and around urban areas, rural areas, pardon me. USDOT combined these programs into a single application to help streamline the process for the states and other applicants. Applications that are eligible for all 3 will be considered separately, and so we have 3 chances there to be successful. During our last application cycle, the department determined that our Interstate 49 project, shown on the screen there in Sebastian and Crawford counties, was our best candidate project based on the merit criteria. This project begins at Highway 22 in Barling, goes across the Arkansas River on a new location to Interstate 40 at Alma. It's about a 13.5, 14-mile project that will connect the new stretch of Interstate 49. While this project wasn't awarded funding in 2022, we have received good feedback, insightful feedback from USDOT that's going to help us strengthen our application going forward. So given that information, it's the staff and our recommendation that we do submit this project again for the 2023 cycle, and we'd like to ask for $100 million in grant funding this year as well.
So we're going to resubmit this again, but we're strengthening our application based on the feedback we got from USDOT. And so we would like a motion, if you so please, to allow us to submit this application again for this funding cycle.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right.
Okay,
It's
thank you.
approved.
We think this is our winning year. We're going to get that 100 million.
Madam Director,
Yes.
can you bank right away? Do you have a certain amount of time that you have to utilize it, or if the opportunity comes up, can you buy right away and ahead of getting approval on a project?
We can purchase right away and preserve a corridor, but if we use federal funds, if we don't build the project, I think this, oh. Anyway, used to, I'm not sure if the rules have changed, but my remembering of the rules is you can go ahead and preserve a corridor and buy the right of way. But if you don't build the construction project within a certain amount of time, if you've used federal money, you have to repay that federal
Repay.
funding. But we try to use that sparingly because, it's really, you go out and buy all that right of way and then 20 years go by and you don't build anything.
Right.
That's.
I was just curious if that
yes.
was a thing.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Kevin Thornton, our Chief of Administration, is going to give you an update on federal and state legislation.
Thank you, Director Tudor, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. As we move closer and closer to the end of the federal fiscal year, which will end on September 30, Congress continues working to provide funding for 2024. I am pleased to report to you that both the Senate and the House have passed their 2024 Transportation Appropriations Bill out of committee. However, there are differences between the two bills that will have to be worked out before a bill can be sent to the President for his signature. While both bills provide full funding for the formula portion of the IIJA, or the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, they are significantly different when it comes to the discretionary grants. One example of this is that the IIJA authorized $1.5 billion for RAISE grants in 2024. The House bill does not include any funding for RAISE grants in 2024. The Senate bill contains $800 million for RAISE grants. So obviously there are many things that have to be agreed to by Congress. I also have an update for you regarding the community project funding that we discussed in your last meeting. Since the House and Senate have both passed their bills, we now know which projects are included in them. Now, please note, the funding on this slide has not been awarded to these projects. However, this is just the next step in the appropriations process. The amounts shown are included in the bills, but again, Congress must resolve the difference and the President must sign before the funding would be awarded. Future Interstate 49 is included for $67 million, and that is from a request by Senator Bozeman. Future Interstate 57 is included for $6 million, and that is from a request by Congressman Crawford. U.S. Highway 412 is included for a total of $8 million. $3 million of that is from a request by Congressman Crawford, and $5 million is from a request by Congressman Womack. U.S. Highway 82 is included for $5 million, which is a request by Congressman Westerman. And Highway 10 is included for $5 million, and that is from a request by Congressman Womack. We will not know if these amounts are actually awarded until the bill is out of Congress and enacted by the President. We'll keep a close eye on that. Director Tudor, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Kevin. And I'd just like to say how fortunate Arkansas is to have such a strong congressional delegation that is involved and supportive of all things infrastructure. We, as the highway commissioners and as RDOT staff, we couldn't ask for a better group in Washington. So just want to say thank you to our congressional delegation for all they do for us. Now I'd like to ask Krista Woods, Assistant Chief of Administration, to come up and give you an update on our efficiency review implementation.
Good morning. I'd like to give you a brief update on our continued efforts to implement the 13 recommendations from the Arkansas Legislative Council efficiency study of the department. These are just a few examples of the progress we've reported in July and August to the Highway Commission Review and Advisory Subcommittee, also known as HCRAS. Recommendation number 3 said we should publish the status of construction projects and maintenance activities. As you probably remember, Garver was selected to prepare the website presenting this information to the public. The proposed contract with Garver was submitted to HCRAS for their review and comment on June 19th, and the public comment period was also open on June 19th through July 5th. We expect this contract to be reviewed by HCRAS in their August 24th meeting. Recommendation number 4 said we should implement a platform that tracks all stakeholder inquiries to resolution. As previously reported, a platform called GovQA was selected for this purpose. We've developed a list of frequently asked questions as well as a list of trending topics to enhance the user experience. We've also created a new name for GovQA, which will be Ask RDOT, and we're now working on branding, including a logo for the new system. We have not yet determined the public launch date. Recommendation 5 said we should implement efficiencies in procurement and purchasing. We've now developed a draft project delivery selection tool, and workshops are being held with RDOT staff to preview the tool. Recommendation 6 said we should implement construction contractor performance measurement. As previously reported, we've identified metrics that define quality and desired performance of the prime contractor, and we've drafted a manual which is under review. We've also developed a draft form for resident engineers and other stakeholders to document their evaluations of the prime contractor. Now we're in the process of determining how we will compile those evaluations into one final evaluation of the prime contractor. We're accomplishing this through a pilot phase using 8 different construction projects, and we expect substantial progress to be made on this recommendation as those 8 projects are completed in the coming months. And last but not least, recommendations number 12 and 13 said that we should ensure staff can develop in their careers at RDOT, and we should improve staff capabilities to align with our current and future agency needs. One of our goals to accomplish this recommendation was to not only continue but to enhance our cross-training in our high turnover areas and our positions that have high turnover. As you might expect, those positions with the highest turnover and the areas, geographical areas, are in our field maintenance offices. So we've recently introduced a method for maintenance supervisors to track the on-the-job training provided to new hires, such as when they are learning to drive dump trucks, for example. We're also developing a process for employees to submit training requests electronically to their supervisors, and these include not only classroom training but also more informal types of training such as cross-training and on-the-job training. So in addition to these monthly reports that we submit to HCRAS, we've also been working with the Arkansas Department of Inspector General's Office of Internal Audit, otherwise known as OIA. We submit information to OIA upon their request in compliance with another portion of the law that established the efficiency review. So this portion of the law requires OIA to conduct an annual review and efficiency study of the department. Their first annual report is due to the Arkansas Legislative Council no later than October 1st of this year. So that means it will be submitted before your next commission meeting. So just to give you a little bit of information about what to expect, OIA's work includes two components. The assurance services component is the independent assessment of our implementation of the Guidehouse recommendations. That section of their report will include an opinion related to the adequacy of our implementation of each recommendation, and it will also include comments to highlight any concerns or challenges that OIA might identify. The consulting component is a review of our internal controls in certain areas of RDOT. Those areas were selected based on risk using factors such as turnover rate, the amount of funding that flows through those areas, and previous audits that have been conducted. So this section of their annual report will include the number of risks they reviewed, the number of recommendations made by OIA, and the number of internal control changes made by RDOT management in each of those areas. It will also include a narrative related to any areas of concern that that OIA has identified, if any exist. It's our understanding that OIA will soon send their draft report to us for review and comment before they submit the final report to the Legislative Council. Again, that report is due to the Legislative Council October 1st, so we're hoping to receive the draft very soon. Any questions?
So we will have a chance to respond if there are any findings in the report before it's finalized, correct?
We hope so.
Okay, thank you.
I had a quick question about Ask RDOT. Is that going to be, can people get there through iDrive Arkansas?
Yes.
Okay, good. I know I keep harping on iDrive Arkansas. I want to be sure that we're still staying central and not dropping a lot of different platforms on people. I want it to all be in one place, so I appreciate that.
Right.
Good, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Crystal. Next, we have Kelly Wiley, Assistant Chief Engineer of Program Delivery, to come up and give you an update on our bid lettings.
Thank you, Director Tudor. Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, our June letting was another success, and we were able to move forward with some important projects. Continuing our update on the Department's pavement preservation program, over the last 6 lettings, the Department has awarded 84 pavement preservation projects, totaling more than $540 million. These projects will provide improvements to over 800 miles of state highways. In June, we awarded 9 projects for $72 million. Of the 18 bids there were 18 bids submitted from 13 different contractors in this letting. The largest project awarded in June will approve approximately 20 miles of Interstate 40 west of Russellville at a cost of $43 million. With 590 calendar days bid on the project, it will be completed by mid-2025, and this work will primarily be completed at night to limit our traffic interruptions. Next up is a $19 million project that will perform various pavement repairs on 11 miles of Interstate 30 between Rockport and Highway 70 just west of Benton. 8 bridges will also receive a polymer overlay. This project will also be completed at night to limit traffic interruptions and should be completed by late next year. The next project will improve approximately 8 miles of Interstate 55 from Blytheville to the Missouri state line. This $5 million project should be completed by the end of this year. Over in Greene County, this $2 million pavement preservation project was awarded and will improve 5 miles of Highway 304 west of Della Plain. This work should also be completed later this year. In the final project awarded in June, this bridge replacement project on Highway 230 in Independence County, just west of Southside. A portion of this highway must be closed for construction of this bridge, requiring a detour. Looking ahead, 11 projects estimated at $126 million have been advertised for the August 16th bid letting. 7 of those projects are highway projects, 3 are state aid projects, and 1 is a city aid project. This concludes my report, Director.
Thank you, Kelly. I'd like to add, is any questions before we? I'd like to add, we're going to add a new segment to our commission meetings. I've asked Rex to start giving you a report on maintenance activities over the time period between meetings, because while construction is a very important part of what RDOT's about and what we do, we also do a tremendous amount of work on the maintenance side of things. So I think it would be good for you all to hear all of the good work we're doing as far as maintaining our roads and taking care of all the things that fall under the maintenance umbrella. So more to come on that. If you have any suggestions on what you'd like to hear or see, let me know or let Rex know, and we'll craft that to be an informative report for you guys. Okay, recent department activities. We went and we met with Congressman Westerman and some of the local officials down in El Dorado to give them an Interstate 69 update. And we just discussed all the projects in South Arkansas and what the challenges were, the hurdles were for I-69. It was a great meeting, very informative. We had the maps up. We were able to talk from just very informally. It was not a real structured type meeting. It was just getting the congressman up to date on I-69. And I thought it was a good opportunity, and I see Gene Higginbotham, he kind of set that up for us. We appreciate that, Gene. And can I make your announcement? He was retiring, but they said you can't retire, so he's no longer going to be working for Congressman Westerman, but he's decided to go and help out Congressman Crawford for a while. So he's just been all over the place, but evidently you just can't, they're not going to let him retire anytime soon. So we look forward to continue to work with you, only in a different part of the state. So thank you. But anyway, he set this meeting up for us and for the congressman. We thought it was very beneficial, very productive. So thank you, Gene, for that. We held our engineering intern orientation since your last meeting. We had 43 civil engineering interns that are working for us this summer, and they all came together, and we were able to kind of talk to them as an administration and feed them a catfish dinner and all that kind of thing. And they represent 9 different schools around, neighboring states and within Arkansas. And I have to tell you, I meet so many people, so I instructed the staff, next year, would you please have color-coded name tags so that I don't introduce myself and welcome an intern that's actually our actual employee, because they look so young. Everyone looks so young to me anymore. So anyway, but it was a great event, got to visit with those young people, and this year we started something new. We encouraged them to interview with us if they're in their senior year, if they're going to be graduating in May of 2024. If they wanted to, we set up an interview with them and went through the interview process so that possibly we can offer them a job a little bit earlier than normal. Normally we do the interviews their last semester. Am I getting that right, Crystal? And but this year we're starting that, and in fact, all the pieces kind of came together because some of those young folks I was talking to said, I have an interview set up tomorrow, and I was encouraging them and telling them, well, great, I know it's going to turn out well. But so we use this, our internship program is such a benefit to the department as far as these young folks, they get to know who we are, and our chances of getting them to agree to come to work for us just rise exponentially if they have been part of this intern program. And a lot of the people you see here today went through that program themselves, so it's a great program.
Lori?
Yes.
I was just curious, how many different or colleges and universities are represented? Do you know?
9.
9, okay. That's impressive.
It is impressive. So we had our SASHTO scholarship drawing. And I'll just give you a reminder what that is. You know, every year SASHTO holds an annual meeting or convention, and there's the remaining funding from sponsorships and registration is distributed among the 14 entities, which is 13 states in Puerto Rico. And each state gets around $15 million a year. Is that right, or is that 15,000? Okay, 15,000. I was like, that's a lot of money. You don't realize one minute I'm dealing with hundreds of millions, and the next minute I'm going with $500 scholarships. It's hard on the old brain. But anyway, so we had $15,000 to distribute, and a couple of years ago we went just to a random drawing. So if you're going to be a student in the next year at any kind of accredited school, whether it's a technical college, a VOTEC school, a university, as long as you're registered in a school for 12 hours or more, a full-time student, and you're a child of a department employee or a retiree or one that's been killed in the line of duty, you're eligible. So it's just a random drawing. It's a lot of fun, and this year we did that, and we had 30 scholarships, $500 each, and we had over 100 applicants for that program. We had a Good Roads Policy event in Jonesboro that just turned out so good. I mean, we really had a good turnout, great information, great time to spend. We had a tour that turned out really well once we stopped and got Freon in the air conditioning, which got a little bit warm on that bus. But anyway, we just appreciate Good Roads and how they keep that conversation going on the importance of infrastructure in the state. Last year we met and they had this policy event in Fort Smith. It turned out very, very well, and then they've done it again. It was so successful they decided to do it in Jonesboro this year. Again, very successful. Chairman Farmer helped to put that together. It was a great event. I'd like to see if you'd like to say a few words about it.
I know it was kind of out of the way. You don't go through Jonesboro, you go to Jonesboro. So I appreciate everybody that
through the whole meeting, so very engaged, very much a part of that meeting. We appreciated that. On July 25th, we held our 4th and final Connecting Arkansas program, or CAP, event here in Little Rock. Everyone's familiar with the CAP and that we have successfully delivered that program. All the projects were promised back in 2012 have either been completed or are underway. And these CAP events, these 4 CAP events, one was held in western Arkansas, one was held in Rogers, is that correct? Not Bentonville. One was held in northwest Arkansas in Bentonville, one was in Jonesboro, the one in Little Rock, and the one in El Dorado. And what was so great about these events to me was the opportunity to say thank you, for the commissioners to say thank you, and to recognize those that were so involved with that initial half-cent sales tax initiative. And when I look back at all 4 events, and I look in that final event there in Central Arkansas, went so well, and we're so appreciative to everyone that was involved. I feel like that victory lap, I think you saw the article, that well done article in the paper, but it just gives us as RDOT staff and the commission a sense of accomplishment. And it's that opportunity just to say thank you and show our gratitude to the state of Arkansas for getting us to this point. And we are at such a good point in the history of the commission and of RDOT. So again, thank you to everyone involved, and thank you to the staff that made those events so good and so productive. We had our Monticello groundbreaking on July 28th to celebrate an important project that will extend. It's the Highway 83 extension, and it will provide part of its new location and part of its improving a city street, but it will provide a north-south connection there on the western side of Monticello. It's a big partnering project. It started off with, they had $1 million back in 2008, and by the time it was all said and done, they had $30 million and had this fabulous project with a railroad overpass, 2 roundabouts. It's going to serve their hospital, their schools. It's a wonderful project for that area. And Commissioner Holder was able to come and speak to the crowd, and Representative Mike Holcomb was there to speak to the crowd. It was just a great day in a small town, but a very vibrant and growing town, and very important to South Arkansas. We're looking forward to the ribbon cutting in a couple of years. So I'll stop there. Any questions on what we've been doing in our spare time? Okay, next up, we're going to talk about internal audit. But before we do, I would like to present to you and ask for your approval on an internal audit charter. Maggie Garrett, RDOT's Chief Internal Auditor, has proposed that the department change from the Government Auditing Standards to the Institute of Internal Auditor Standards, or the IIA standards. Moving to those standards requires us to execute a charter that defines as you see on the slide, the authority, independence, objectivity, activities, responsibility, quality assurance, and improvement program to fulfill the purpose and mission of the internal audit division. So what the charter does is just put into writing the purpose and the mission and how the internal audit division is going to accomplish that. A lot of these things is the same thing we've always done. We've just never put it down on paper. So this charter just formalizes that, all of that goes on with our internal audit of the department. I'm very, very proud of and supportive of this change to the IIA standards that Maggie has proposed. I believe it's going to provide a new level of transparency and accountability between RDOT and the Commission, as well as to the public. So it's really a positive step in the right direction. So if I need a motion and a second to adopt the internal audit charter and authorize the chairman to sign that charter.
We have a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Motion, here a second? Second. All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor of approving the charter, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion, it's approved.
So now that we have a charter, it says that Maggie has to present her audit plan for 2024 to the Commission. So this is the first activity that the charter sets in place. So Maggie Garrett of our Internal Audit Division will begin. Here you go.
Thank you for the opportunity to present the 2024 Annual Audit Plan of the Internal Audit Division. Is it not? Is my microphone on? It's showing the light on. Okay, it is. Okay. The presentation and approval are required by audit standards. Before I begin, I want to thank members of management, especially Director Tudor, Mr. Vines, Mr. Thornton, and Mr. Wiley for providing input and feedback. Management input is an important component to internal audit planning and is also required by audit standards. Additionally, I would like to say thank you to my staff who assisted in compiling the audit plan. It was a division-wide effort. To complete the plan, we performed an analysis of the results of a survey sent in January of 2023, interviewed management, reviewed previous audit reports, commission meeting minutes, prior control self-assessments, the department's strategic plan, financial statements, and other information. In the presentation today, I will discuss the points which are necessary, but the discussion will be at a very high level. You can find more detail about our audit work within the document you received a few weeks ago, but I will be glad to answer any questions that you may have today. The audit plan was developed to fulfill the purpose and the mission of the Internal Audit Division. The purpose of the Internal Audit Division is to provide independent, objective, assurance and consulting services designed to add value and improve operations. The Internal Audit Division supports the department in accomplishing its objectives by bringing a systematic, disciplined approach to evaluate and improve the effectiveness of governance, risk management, and control processes. And the mission of the Internal Audit Division is to earn and preserve the trust of Arkansans by promoting accountability, integrity, and efficiency in the operation of the department. Each project of the plan is assigned a number of estimated hours. The internal audit staff, including myself, keep up with the time we spend on each project. Our timekeeping system can report on how each auditor spends their time on different activities. As we work through the year, I will be monitoring the number of hours spent working on projects versus the number of hours estimated. I began monitoring on July 1st, 2023, and will continue through the audit period, which ends June 30th, 2024. We will report our progress quarterly to Director Tudor, and the quarterly report will also be available to you as commission members. This report helps to hold the Internal Audit Division accountable and gives you assurance that the Internal Audit Division is not sitting idle. The audit standards used to develop the audit plan are a component of the International Professional Practices Framework of the Institute of Internal Auditors. These standards give guidance about what should be included in the annual audit plan. This includes selecting projects using a risk-based approach, consulting projects, mandatory audits or reviews which are required by law or regulation, if there are any, performing quality assurance activities, and other projects to which the Internal Audit Division will be devoting time. It is also required that I confirm to you that we have the resources we need to accomplish the plan, which I will discuss at the end of the presentation. Risk-based planning means that the Internal Audit Division performs a risk assessment. There is flexibility in how the risk-based portion of the plan can be developed, including utilizing different risk assessment techniques. A simple risk assessment can be completed, such as using the last audit date or assessing accounts by dollar value. A more complex risk assessment can also be used, which includes identifying auditable units and ranking those units by risk criteria. For our audit plan, we use different risk assessment techniques, both simple and complex. One of the simple techniques we used, for example, was when we looked at the types of state revenue inflows, not including federal funding, and performed a simple risk assessment related to the dollar amount. This revealed that the motor fuel tax continues to be our largest incoming state revenue stream, which is not audited by the Department of Finance and Administration, Revenue Services Division, Office of Field Audit. We believe that the work we do related to motor fuel tax should continue because motor fuel tax revenue is one of our largest sources of state revenue, which is not otherwise audited. Our motor fuel tax auditors review and resolve discrepancies produced by an automated system that tracks all loads of fuel from first receipt to payment of tax of fuel distributors. They ensure these taxpayers are in compliance with the motor fuel and special motor fuels tax laws and related requirements. The other risk assessments we performed included identifying auditable units and stratifying those units into 3 groups. Our auditable units included sections of each division and districts, which include resident engineer or RE offices. We identified a total of 123 auditable units. We stratified the units into these 3 categories: operational divisions, This category has 60 auditable units. Districts and RE offices, this category has 41 auditable units. District 11 is not included. In administration divisions, this category has 22 auditable units. We selected audits based upon our risk assessment from each of these three groups. Please note the small organizational chart toward the top of this slide. The divisions highlighted in dark gray are those that we considered as the operational divisions for audit planning purposes. For the operational divisions, we assigned a risk rating based on the last audit date from either an internal or an external audit, and the assessment for the risk displayed on the slide: change risk, compliance risk, financial risk, health and safety risk, operational risk, and reporting risk.
Excuse me, Maggie, I was just going to point out to everyone that your position is the only position in the department that actually has lines going to Director Tudor and to the commission. So you, day-to-day operations report to the director, but if findings or reporting of any information would come to the commission. Is that correct?
Well, it's whatever the commission wants. I think we were planning on our reports going directly to Director Tudor and being available to the commission.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Mhm. Oops. Didn't realize I had already selected it. Based on this risk assessment, the areas which scored the highest risk rating were selected for audit. We selected the top 3 auditable units for the audit plan year, which are the Asset Management section of the System Information and Research Division, the Construction Payments and Audit section of the Construction Division, the Structural Inventory and Rating section of the Bridge Division. The risk assessment performed for the districts and RE offices was a simple risk assessment, which was based solely on the last internal audit date. The districts are on a rotating schedule. Based on this risk assessment, the top 3 districts which had the date of the oldest internal audit were selected. The districts and RE offices we plan to work with this year are District 7, District 3, and District 9. The risk assessment performed for the administration divisions is referred to in the auditing world as a hybrid between a specific risk approach and a risk-by-process approach. When auditors brainstorm risk using this technique, they do not necessarily focus on risks that they think are actually occurring, but rather think of risk as inherent risk or without control activities in place. We focus on if a risk were to happen, if it had no control activities in place, then what would be the likelihood and impact of that risk? To perform this risk assessment, we brainstormed specific risks related to administrative processes, keeping in mind the department's strategic plan. When auditors perform a risk assessment like this, it is very common to become overwhelmed with the number of risks that can be assessed. So we narrowed that number down to what we felt like were the top 15 risks, which we believed we could realistically perform audit work. We then ranked the risks by criteria related to the likelihood of occurrence and potential impact effect. Once we ranked the risk, we then mapped them to a process or a program and identified the auditable unit or units where the program or process organizationally resides. Administrative policies, procedures, and processes can affect the entire department. So programs and processes we identified span across several areas. We want to look at these programs and processes on a department-wide basis and pay special attention to ensuring that controls are present and functioning when crossing between divisions or districts. Based on this risk assessment, the following programs or processes were selected for audit: the Traffic Incident Management Program, the Preventative Maintenance Program, and the Request for Proposal process. I will note that justification for another project, which we plan to continue, was also supported by this risk assessment. It relates to the accounting manual. I decided to perform the accounting manual project as a consultation service, which I will discuss next. Consulting. According to the standards, the chief auditor should consider accepting proposed consulting engagements based on the engagement's potential to improve management of risk, add value, and improve the organization's operations. Accepted engagements must be included in the plan. We have 2 planned consulting projects. We received a management request to provide assistance relating to updating the accounting manual earlier in the year. We plan to continue to provide this service for the audit period. The accounting manual update project includes providing recommendations related to control activities involving the Oracle accounting system. We will not be responsible for updating the accounting manual. That is management's responsibility. But we can assist in facilitating the update and provide advice about building in control activities. The other major project we will be providing consulting services for is related to the department's control self-assessment. We will review the design of the internal control system within a division or a district by evaluating identified risk in the documented control activities and provide recommendations for strengthening the system of internal control. We will also collaborate with the Department of the Inspector General's Office of Internal Audit, working on the department's control self-assessment per the engagement between the Office of Internal Audit and the Arkansas Legislative Council. We will coordinate with them to ensure that we are not duplicating work. Mandatory audits and reviews. If there are audits or reviews which are required by federal or state mandate, that work should be included in the audit plan. We have mandatory audits and reviews which we perform, and these are included in our plan. We refer to these as IFTA audits and ICR reviews. IFTA stands for the International Fuel Tax Agreement. Our auditors ensure applicable taxpayers are in compliance with the IFTA governing documents and related requirements. We anticipate completing approximately 93 audits during the audit period. ICR stands for Indirect Cost Rate. This work includes desk reviews of audits submitted by out-of-state firms and work paper reviews submitted by in-state firms. Usually, we utilize an on-call CPA firm to conduct the work paper review of in-state firms' audits, but we do have the option to conduct these reviews as time allows. We anticipate conducting approximately 56 in-state and out-of-state ICR reviews. Quality assurance activities. An internal quality assurance program and an external quality assurance review is required to ensure that the work of the internal audit division is being completed in accordance with the standards. An external quality assurance review is required every 5 years. We have set aside time to develop and implement an internal quality assurance and improvement program, and we will also be preparing for an external quality assurance review to be conducted in the fall of 2024. Other work we plan to conduct includes, but is not limited to, the following. Investigations. We investigate issues which we are asked to address by management. We also receive complaints or allegations through the RDOT Fraud, Waste, and Abuse Hotline and online reporting portal. Continuous auditing projects. We will be developing audit procedures which we want to conduct on a continuous or regular basis. Follow-up audits. We will be developing a process to document audit findings and recommendations to ensure that recommendations are implemented or resolved by management. If there are audit findings which we believe warrant additional follow-up work, we will conduct a follow-up audit. Rollover projects. There are projects which began before the audit plan period and will continue into this period, and there are other projects which we plan to begin in this audit plan period and may continue into the next audit plan period. We call these rollover projects. And we have time set aside for projects that may come up during the audit plan year which management request, which we call unplanned management request. Resources. Confirmation that the department has provided sufficient resources for the completion of the audit plan should be mentioned. I would like to confirm that we have been provided a sufficient budget for salaries and other expenses. We have been provided excellent facilities and everything we need as far as IT hardware and software is concerned. Resources needed to accomplish the plan are sufficient and adequate. We are very appreciative of the Commission's and the Director's commitment to investing in the Internal Audit Division. This investment has made a positive impact on the capabilities of our staff. Again, this is a very high-level look at our audit plan.
I mentioned that we estimated the number of hours for each project. If for some reason we do not use the number of hours we have allotted to a project, we will shift those hours to other projects and have the flexibility to take on new projects if needed. This is considered a rolling plan, which means that it is subject to minor changes at any time. This will allow our team to be agile so we can address emerging issues more quickly. I will communicate anything of a nature which arises by performing this work in which I believe that this commission should be aware. Reports will be distributed to the appropriate individuals, including the director, and you may also have access to any reports of the Internal Audit Division. Presentation of the annual audit plan is required to ensure that the Internal Audit Division activities are appropriate and resources to accomplish the plan are adequate. With that, I would ask that this audit plan be approved, but I would be glad to entertain any questions before approval.
Are there any questions?
I just wanted
I've got,
oh, go ahead. I just want to clarify your earlier question.
Right.
So, Maggie, this is excellent, by the way, just outstanding work
Thank
all
you.
the way around. And you had mentioned that your day-to-day reports will go to the director, and I think what Chairman Farmer was alluding to was that if we would never have this problem, but if a future chief auditor ever found a problem with the office of the director, that chief auditor would have a direct line to go and be comfortable going straight to the commission in that instance. And I think that's the only thing.
Thank
that
you for
we're working
cleaning
to
up my
clarify.
poorly asked question.
And yes, that is correct.
Okay, great. I think
That's
we want to
what
verify
I
that.
was trying to say.
That's right.
Thank you.
that was my question also. But just to further clarify it, either the chairman or the commissioners would get an annual report directly from you, not necessarily coming through the director.
We can do that if you
I
are
mean, I think
interested in
that's
it.
appropriate.
Okay.
I've served on finance committee, and audits normally come both ways. I mean, come directly to the commission. I just think that's
Well,
appropriate.
if the process is, I mean, she would have her audit, if there were findings, like any other audit, you go to management, say, these are findings, chance to answer, clear it up, or whatever, before it was a final audit report. Is that generally?
We do allow for a management response in our audits, yes.
All right, is there any other questions? I just appreciate a very thorough report. We're glad to have you aboard and look forward to hearing from you. Well, maybe not look forward to hearing from you in the future. once a year, maybe.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
So we need a motion and a second to approve the audit report, or the audit plan for 2024.
All right,
So moved.
motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, all right, and a third. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, we have the plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Good morning, Commissioners. Today I have the honor of providing an overview of the Department's right-of-way division. The purpose of the right-of-way division is for the acquisition, management, and disposal of real property for highway projects on the state highway system. The right-of-way division is within the design branch. Assistant Chief Engineer for Design Mike Fugit leads the design branch, and the right-of-way division reports directly to him. The division is composed of 7 sections, and currently a total of 93 staff members comprising a wide variety of professional and administrative roles, including appraisers, abstractors, closing agents, CAD drafters, negotiators, and coordinators. And as an extension of our staff, We also utilize several right-of-way consultants to supplement our internal staff as additional resources to help us get our work done on a daily basis. The leadership of the right-of-way division is comprised of our 7 section heads shown here, and our right-of-way project manager who reports directly to me and has primary, that's James Ward, he primarily has responsibility for our schedule and also coordinates with our consultants, our assistant division head, Robert Arman, and myself. Today I have one of my staff members with me, Nate Williams, who's the section head for relocation, in case there's any questions that I can't answer. All right. The main function of the right-of-way division is to acquire real property for highway projects. That takes most of our time. Protections for private property owners are founded in federal and state law to provide protections from government entities that have the power of eminent domain when property is acquired for public use, such as highway projects. In the U.S. Constitution, the Fifth Amendment states in part, we kind of know the one part of it, but the back part of it says, no private property shall be taken for public use without just compensation. We'll define just compensation in a moment. Secondly, the Uniform Act provides for uniform policies related to property acquisition and relocation assistance for all projects receiving federal funds. And this is the federal law that governs how we do our business in acquiring right-of-way. There's also protections built in state law. In the Constitution states in part that the right of property is before and higher than any constitutional sanction, and private property shall not be taken without just compensation given. And then we have the Arkansas Property Owners Bill of Rights, which sets forth requirements and standards for Arkansas entities that exercise eminent domain. Our administrative section. So the first thing the administrative section does when we have a new project started is they verify the legal description of the deeds of the properties we're proposing to acquire and do a chain of title search. The search is for a minimum of a 30-year period, and after the search is complete, a title certificate is for each tract is completed. Then it's reviewed by our senior abstractors, and any issues are cleared up with consultation from our legal division's title attorney. The title search is very important to determine that we have the correct owner, the correct legal description, and any encumbrances or issues such as liens, judgments, delinquent taxes, such as that, that we know about those and know how to handle those so that we get clear title to the property for our right-of-way, and that the correct person is paid for the right-of-way. Other duties, they have other administrative functions that, such as paying bills to utilities, companies for relocations, and maintaining our permanent right-of-way records. At the end of the right-of-way acquisition process, when negotiations result in a settlement for the needed right-of-way, our closing agents will obtain payoffs of mortgages, liens, taxes, other encumbrances, coordinate preparation of deeds with the legal division, meet with the property owner for closing, and then get the signed documents and deeds filed with the appropriate court, or coordinate with the county judge to get a court order filed. They're kind of like our title office. And then right-of-way engineering section. After the title work's complete, that ownership information is provided to our engineering section, along with information from our roadway design, the design of the job that shows the limits or the amount of right-of-way we're going to need, parcel surveys from our surveys division, and all this information is compiled together and used to provide and prepare our right-of-way plans or maps. The maps show who the owner of the property that we're wanting to acquire is, how much we need, the locations of improvements, driveway accesses, the area of the remaining tract that left after right-of-way acquisition. and along with the right-of-way plans, legal descriptions of the area to acquire are prepared by our engineering section as well. They also maintain the plans as a living document. So as right-of-way is added or released, the plans are updated, and that information is available to the public. And we do hundreds of requests per month releasing right-of-way information. In Arkansas, there's two ways that we have right-of-way. We have fee title right-of-way, where we buy the property and we own it. We own the land that the right-of-way is on. And then there's court order right-of-way, in which we pay for an easement, but we don't actually own the property. We have an easement for highway purposes over that land. And we work with the county judge in the appropriate county to acquire that by court order. They file a court order, and that type of system is used on our lower volume state highways and local roads. Our next section is the appraisal section. So after we have the plans completed, we have the title work finished, then it's time to appraise the property. And our appraisers are responsible for the valuation of real property and related assets for highway projects. The appraisals are conducted by an appraiser who determines what the fair market value of the property is before the project's constructed, then determines what the fair market value would be after the project's constructed. Arkansas case law requires that just compensation be established by determining the difference between the before fair market value of the whole property minus the difference between the before and the after of the taking. So that just compensation represents a full and complete, usually monetary, value to the owner whose land has been taken or damaged for the fair market value of the property, taking into account actual damages or benefits to any remaining property. The appraisal is reviewed by a reviewing appraiser. They'll approve the fair market values that are the before and after, and recommend that this be used as the figures to establish just compensation. They'll approve how the allocation of compensation is made. They'll consider whether the remaining property or portion thereof is an uneconomic remnant or not. And it'll also include compensation for any building, structures, or other improvements that are required to be removed. And the payment, the just compensation includes all of those things. An uneconomic remnant, definition that will come up in a few moments, is if in the after scenario, the property or the remaining property is going to be worth very little, so it's damaged down to where it's not worth hardly anything at all, or maybe it's so small that it can't be redeveloped. The department can offer to purchase that property from them at its fair market value, and this is called an uneconomic remnant. The owner's under no obligation to do so. They can decline our offer to sell that remainder property to us, but it is an option. And then in the case of a condemnation, we do not purchase uneconomic remnants. Okay, this slide depicts the number of appraisals that have been produced over the last several years. That 1,100 appraisals in 2022 is indicative of the increase in number of the projects that are underway as our new program's going. Acquisition. So negotiations with property owners begin after we have authority to acquire from the Federal Highway Administration. The appraisal has been performed, just compensation established. Our agent will present and deliver to the owner the written just compensation offer to purchase the needed real property interest, along with a summary statement providing the basis of the total amount offered for the property acquired, any damages to the property. Our agent will explain the project, discuss how the project will affect the property owner's property. The agent will explain how the just compensation value determined also. The owner will be given a reasonable amount of time to consider the offer and present a counteroffer if they wish. NARDOT will consider any such submission by the owner and promptly respond to the owner as appropriate. Some of our choices are: we can accept their counteroffer, we can make another counteroffer to them, or we can, if negotiations fail, we can recommend condemnation. In all cases, all negotiations are directed to accomplish the end result that the property owner will be paid just compensation in accordance with federal requirements contained in the Uniform Act and state law. In 2022, 831 property tracts were acquired by the department. 98 of these were acquired through the condemnation process. That 831 tracts totaled a little over $26 million in right-of-way costs. Historically, less than 10% of condemnations go to trial. Most are settled prior to the court date or are necessary due to title issues or the inability to locate property owners. In those two cases, it's not necessarily a case of negotiations failing. There may be judgments, there may be back taxes, it may be the fact that we can't find the people, and those are usually handled through a hearing with the court. But as far as some notes on the condemnation process, the other part of that was when negotiations fail to reach a settlement, the tract is recommended to be obtained through the condemnation process. Our legal division files an eminent domain lawsuit in the circuit court in the area of the project. The original just compensation offer amount is deposited with the court. So if we're in the midst of negotiating with them, and let's say we offer them $1,000, and we've through negotiations we've got it up to, we're offering them, we're at $10,000, but we can't get to a settlement. It goes back to the original offer amount. So the original just compensation amount is deposited with the court. The property owner is free and may withdraw the just compensation amount without prejudice toward their case, and the department obtains an order of possession from the circuit court judge. And this process condemnation sounds bad, the word being condemned, but really it's a process to protect the property owner to where they have a way to either they can settle with us or they can have a court decide what the just compensation amount is. Okay, relocation. One purpose of the Uniform Act when it was enacted was to reduce the disproportionate injury suffered by persons who must move or move their personal property due to a highway project. The department offers a relocation assistance program to provide relocation assistance, advisory services, and payments to all persons who were displaced by highway projects in accordance with the Uniform Act and then its regulation, which is found in 49 CFR Part 24. The payments and services provided by the program assure that there is a decent, safe, and sanitary replacement dwelling for any eligible person who must move from their residence. It also provides for its advisory services and payments to all eligible persons, including businesses, farms, and nonprofit organizations who must move or move their personal property. In the photo shown here, tract 11, shown on the picture. This part right here was right away that we acquired. This part right here, and there's three homes that were affected by this. So those three homes qualified for relocation benefits assistance. We were talking about uneconomic remnants earlier. So this portion was actually purchased, and it's considered an uneconomic remnant, and we hold that property as what's defined as a capital asset, and we'll talk about that in just a couple minutes as well. And I want to brag on our relocation section a little bit, because in 2022 they handled double the number of tracks that they normally do. They took over some work and on the Springdale bypass that we needed help with, and they got it done quickly. They're still working on that some, but they did a great job, and kudos to Nate and his staff. They're doing an awesome job. Our next section is the utility section. And now we're going to kind of transition to, they have a function that's more of a management function of the right-of-way. So the utility section handles the relocation and reimbursements for utility relocations on highway projects. A couple definitions. There's a reimbursable utility relocation is one where the utility is required to move and was on private property prior to the project, and that portion can be paid with federal funds to reimburse them for that cost of moving. A non-reimbursable utility is one that was located within the right-of-way, existing right-of-way, and when they have to move, they have to pay themselves they have to pay the relocation cost themselves. Our coordinators work with our design staff during the design phase of a project to minimize impacts to utilities. During the construction phase, they work with our resident engineer in coordination of the utility work and also payments to the utility for reimbursable utilities. Additionally, our utility staff issues over 2,000 utility permits statewide, working with our district offices, and also maintains our department's utility accommodation policy and handles all exceptions to those policies. Property management. So after we've acquired the right of way, we have to clear it of any improvements and in buildings. So clearing underground storage tanks, buildings, asbestos abatement. They handle the contracts with we have contractors that work with us to do that work for us. They also inventory manage and maintain our surplus properties that are acquired, and they coordinate the sale of surplus properties. Okay, so surplus property release. We talked about uneconomic remnants earlier, so I know it's hard to read, but some definitions. So as far as surplus property is concerned, right-of-way is considered real property that we acquired under the laws of eminent domain. So that's property we acquired for right-of-way for highway purposes. Detailed flow chart of the steps involved in the surplus property releases. So state law 27, 627, 321, and 322 cover surplus property sales, and there are really three different types. There's court order right-of-way release. That is where we release the easement we have back to the county, and the county takes care of the final disposition of that right-of-way. There's right-of-way that we own in fee, and when we release right-of-way that we own in fee, there's two different ways. There's if it's the entire part. You back up. The right-of-way that's owned in fee, the previous property owner has the first right to repurchase that. So we advertise that. They have 60 days to come, and they can, if it's the entire right-of-way parcel that we're releasing, they can buy it from us for what we paid them originally, or what we paid them originally. They can refund that. If it's a portion of the right-of-way parcel, then it is they can buy it back from us for fair market value based on 3 appraisers. The fair market value established by 3 appraisers. The other side of that is if it's a capital asset, such as the one we showed on a few slides ago, That would be one where the previous owners are notified, but they do not have the right of first repurchase. Fair market value for that is established by 2 certified appraisers. And then the department reports to the legislature when surplus properties are sold on a quarterly basis in accordance with Act 1315 of 1997. The last section of the right-of-way division is the beautification section. The beautification section is responsible for regulating outdoor advertising, signs, and junkyards in accordance with the Highway Beautification Act of 1965 and state law. That regulation also includes illegal signs and illegal junkyards. Other functions of the section are the logo sign program, tourist-oriented directional signage or TODs, and scenic byways. And with that, that concludes my remarks today. Thank you.
Any questions?
Quit looking at me like that.
I will say, Commissioner Taldo, we were supposed to do this last commission meeting, but you were out of the country. So we postponed it because we knew of anyone in this room, you would have the most questions, and we couldn't wait to hear them.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'm gonna tone it down. I could ask 100 questions, but I'm gonna knock it down to 25.
All right.
I did want to ask on the right of way, whenever you receive it by easement, does that come off the tax rolls for the property owner in the county whenever we're using it for a highway?
No, sir. No, sir. They are still the property owner. We own an easement across that. They still, in many cases, they still own to the center of the road. In a lot of those, and generally speaking, that's the case. But yes, that does not come off the tax rolls.
So they still have to pay real estate tax on that, although they can't use it.
Correct.
Okay. Do we put out RFQs and I guess RFPs for the services that we use in this? Like you mentioned, the appraisers, we use independent appraisers, and we use title companies and different functions like that. How do we choose who we use?
There's 2 different ways. So we have an on-call right-of-way services. They put out an RFP, I believe that was in 2021. It runs through 2025. We have several consultants that do various services. We also have the ability to hire directly through our procurement laws to state procurement to hire a title company or appraisers directly. Usually, a lot of times, we do that with the title companies because it may be in a area of the state where it may only be 4 or 5 titles, and we work with those local title companies to go ahead and do that work for us if they're willing to do that.
Do you use local, if they're available, do you use local title companies, or do you try to stay in the same county or whatever on the title work for that services?
It's both ways. Either our internal abstractors will do the work, or if it's a job that we're consulting out, full service, let's say all the services, the consultant has subcontractors that work for them that do title work sometimes. A lot of times on the smaller jobs, we will go to the local title companies and we don't try to overwhelm them because, you know, their business mostly is with mortgages. So if we don't want to take,
Well, it won't hurt their feelings. Let me tell you.
so yeah, we do use the local one some.
They, okay, thank you. On the settlements that we have, we get the appraisal. Excuse me. I just get a lot of questions asked on this stuff all the time. And I'm sorry, I'm
I
taking
understand.
time, but on the settlement, do we have limits on what you're able to negotiate with property owners on a settlement? I'm not asking you what it is, but do we have limits on what you're able to negotiate on purchase?
Yes, we do. We have three different levels. So we have the section head of acquisition. He can go up to a certain amount. Then me as the division head can go up to a certain amount. And then above that, the assistant chief engineer of design has to authorize that.
Okay. Okay. And one more thing. And I've run across this more and more every day. Utilities that are on property that we purchase, fee simple, and you find utilities there, but they don't have an easement. How do you deal with that?
Well,
I mean, say there's a cable company,
yeah.
got a cable buried down through there, and you buy the property, and there's a cable there.
Well, it's handled through our utility accommodation policy. So if we're buying property that a utility is on private land, and they are already on private land, then they would be considered reimbursable. So we would pay for them to move. They could move back within our right of way if they wanted to. Now, if we ever widen again in the future, if they move inside of our right of way, and we accommodate them, then they lose that right of being reimbursed in the future. Or they can purchase a private easement, but that's how that's handled.
Okay. You run across that a lot?
Them not having an easement?
Yeah.
I'm not,
Well, they may not come to your attention.
Right.
That might be later on in construction.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. That's all I got.
thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good report.
Thank you, Kevin, for giving us that great report. I tell you, I learned so much by these presentations, and I'm always a little blown away about the complexity of some of the things that our staff do day in and day out. So I appreciate y'all's hard work. And Kevin took over right-of-way division, what, two years ago? And he's doing a fine job, an excellent job, and you know it's a extremely hard part of what we do, getting it ready to go to contract. And it can take up to you can get it designed, but it can take up to 2-3 years to get the right-of-way purchased and the utilities relocated. So it's extremely important that it's handled well, and Kevin and his team are doing a great job. So upcoming events. On August 5th, the Pea Ridge National Military Park grand reopening and ribbon cutting, and Vice Chairman Taldo will be attending that. August 5th through 9th, it's coming up soon, is the SASHTO annual meeting in Mobile, Alabama. And I and several of us staff are going this year. We have quite a contingency of RDOT employees going because they're going to be shadowing their counterparts in Mobile because we're hosting SASHTO annual meeting next year. So it's going to be a great event for all of us. We'll all be down there learning the ropes, and I will accept the gavel and welcome everybody to Arkansas next year. So everybody gird their loins, get ready, because we're going to have like 1,400 guests coming into Rogers, and we're going to make Arkansas proud of RDOT and the Highway Commission and put on a great conference. August 16th is our bid letting. August 23rd, I'm doing a presentation to the Arkansas Concrete Pavement at the Arkansas Concrete Pavement Conference in Hot Springs. August 23rd is Learn and Earn. Vice Chairman Taldo, you're busy in August. Learn and Earn. August 24th is the HCRAS meeting. I'll be presenting, and we'll have that contract to go over that we're talking about for, what was that for? The new website that shows all of our construction and maintenance activities. It's going to be fabulous when we get that up and running. The holiday on September 4th, the County Judges Association of Arkansas Conference, September 6th through 8th, PE Board meeting, bid letting, Congressional delegation visits, September 26th through 29th. We're looking forward to that with the Highway Commission, and the Congressional delegation is excited about having you up there and hosting you as well. October 12th, we have the Good Roads Executive Board meeting. Chairman Farmer will be attending that, and I'll be tagging along just to hear what's said. October 24th, Hot Springs Bypass Extension and US 270 ribbon cutting. We're going to be celebrating two different projects that day, ribbon cutting. And then they're also doing their annual Commissioner Appreciation Luncheon by the Hot Springs Chamber of Commerce. So looking forward to that event. October 25th, Arkansas Highway Commission meeting. You'll be assembling once again right back here, same time, same place. So with that, I have no other business or discussion. So thank you. That's my report, and I'll turn it back over to you, Chairman Farmer.
Thank you, Director. Is there any other comments or questions from the commissioners or anyone else? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Under 2 hours. We're adjourned. Thank you.